every couple of years, a movie comes along. Well, usually 2 movies of 2 very different genres that release on the same day. Around this time, 15 years ago, we got The Dark Knight and Mamma Mia.
Wow.
Coming up, we have Oppenheimer and Barbie. So, we got a Nolan movie, the movie for the ladies.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So, it being the anniversary, and y'all demanded it, y'all wanted more DC reviews. So here you go. We're going to talk about the best DC movie, or maybe even the best comic book movie of all time, The Dark Knight.
That is up for debate.
Yeah,
highly
definitely.
contested.
Well, especially now that there's like more hats in the ring as far as superhero movies are concerned.
Now that this movie has come out and stepped up the game,
Yeah.
we have other options.
Yeah.
And that's what we should talk about. This movie stepped up the game.
Oh, yeah.
This was, Spider-Man was before this, right? So
Yeah, so I mean,
I think Spider-Man was the first biggest.
you had Spider-Man, you had X-Men, and
Right.
Iron Man came out the same year as this movie also.
Wow. Wait. So which one came first?
I'm pretty sure Iron Man came first.
Really? Okay.
And then this came. But this is a sequel, so it's already following up a franchise. I think a lot of stuff this movie does has been mimicked to varying degrees of success in other superhero movies.
Yeah.
Namely, a couple other DC movies. The studios took away from this that people really like serious superhero movies.
Yeah, this completely decided the whole direction that DC would go for the next how many years?
10.
With all the Snyderverse stuff. Christopher Nolan, wasn't he producer of Man of Steel?
Yes,
So
and we'll get to Man of Steel. I'm excited to talk about that trilogy of movies. I have some very...
They're very near and dear to you.
Those movies are very close to me. This movie also tried to make superhero movies feel more real. So, like The Amazing Spider-Man was supposed to be a more realistic take of Spider-Man, which they kind of threw away towards the second one when they start bringing in Electro.
Yeah. In the first one, they bring in lizard people.
That's a good point.
So
this was a trendsetter in a lot of ways. Even as far as it goes to method acting, which has been replicated by a specific other Joker actor to varying degrees of success.
Are you sweet-talking me?
yes, some people do the method well, and some people don't.
Yeah, some people just do the meth.
This movie is about Batman.
Yeah.
And he fights the Joker.
Yeah. Most great Batman movies tend to have those elements.
Yeah.
This movie also follows Harvey Dent and, Commissioner Gordon trying to take down the mob. It even follows Harvey Dent's turn into Two-Face.
Right. We see the Scarecrow, too.
Yes.
He's a part of this.
Oppenheimer makes an appearance in this. He quit atomic bombs and went to fear gas.
Now I am become the Scarecrow.
A lot of people have said Christian Bale is the Batman. The best Batman.
Right.
Hasn't been topped before or since. Now, while I think that is up for debate, I do think he gets a lot of the Batman-isms correct. How do you feel about Christian Bale's take on Batman, in this movie specifically?
I think Christian Bale Batman is default Batman.
Yes.
He does everything, to a T that Bruce Wayne should do. It's hard for me to even say that he has his own take, necessarily, as much as, I just view him as Bruce Wayne. He meets the criteria exactly of what he should be, the suaveness of Bruce Wayne with the coldness of Batman,
Yeah. One of the reasons he may pull Bruce Wayne off so well is his experience as Patrick Bateman in
That's
American
true.
Psycho.
Definitely.
Batman is kind of an American Psycho in his own way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing if he just killed people,
Yeah.
If he just did that one thing he doesn't do.
Yeah.
Which is what this movie is kind of about.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I think this movie is known for is popularizing the whole Batman doesn't kill, Batman doesn't use guns. That
really enforcing that.
Yeah, that was established in the comics, but all the Batmen have killed in varying capacities. Maybe except Adam West. I don't think he has.
Right.
Maybe Robert Pattinson also, that we know of.
Right, yeah. I don't know. I think they always kind of dart away from the subject, Like Michael Keaton Batman. Doesn't he drop the Joker off a building or something?
The Joker falls off a building, but he kind of caused it.
Right, yeah.
And he also throws a bomb down a guy's pants and throws him down a sewer where he explodes.
This Batman, Dark Knight Batman, let Ra's al Ghul die in the last movie, but we just don't talk about that, I guess. Because in this movie, they really stress it.
So we talked about Batman. Got to talk about the Joker.
He's the perfect Joker. I said, Christian Bale is default Batman. I think this is above and beyond Joker. Joker for me was always more interesting than Batman in this movie, at least.
Yeah. Well, one thing that used to bug me, because when I was a kid and I was trying to be like a little edgier, like I'd be like, I don't think Heath Ledger Joker's that good because he's not comic accurate. I prefer like Jack Nicholson. He's actually like surprisingly influenced a lot by the source material. Pulls a lot from The Killing Joke, and I think even like Long Halloween and like a few other like Batman stories. But as far as Joker goes, we've talked about this before we started, but when you look at him, you don't see a guy.
Right.
You look at his face and like you can't even almost imagine him without the makeup, even though you see him without the makeup.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like he's wearing a mask, which I guess is sort of like the whole metaphor between him and Batman.
You're the
Different kinds of
parallel.
masks. Yeah, they're both wearing their true faces, but one of them's hiding their. You know.
Yeah. Two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
The classic thing.
So, is this best Joker for you?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't think any version of Joker is going to top this.
Yeah.
Like, people make the argument of Joaquin. I see an actor doing a performance with Joaquin. You know?
I think this is kind of a hot take. Stuff I don't like about his version of Joker is he doesn't really feel smart. Like, this Joker feels more like a strategist. There's theories about his origin.
But he doesn't have a plan, Bernardi.
Yeah, he doesn't he though?
Kind of, sort of. His plan changes a lot in this movie.
Yeah. But my point with that version of Joker with Joaquin Phoenix is that he almost feels like there's this episode of Batman the Animated Series where this guy kind of like lucks into being like the most famous mobster because everyone thinks he killed Batman, even though he's just like a regular like, low-level guy. That's kind of what the Joker movie felt like for me. This guy that just happens to become like this symbol of anarchy. And even though he is violent, he does like, you know, kill people and stuff. People, you know, associate him with a movement, less of him as a person. Now, I mean, maybe they'll build on that more in Joker too. And I kind of like your point about when I see Joaquin playing Joker, I see, you know, a more human character because they spent the whole movie focusing on him. Whereas here, Joker's more of a force of nature, which I think is where Joker works best.
In this movie, he's full Joker mode. You know, he's moral conundrums everywhere, every other scene. You know,
the performance is great. He steals every scene he's in. Those were the parts of the movie I was more invested in. Were just the scenes where I see him being the Joker and him shining in the movie. Sad what happened. They passed away. There's a little misconception around the way he died. People think that he got like so lost in the character that he like died to the madness. That's not entirely true. There were times when he was on set where he wasn't in character.
Yeah, and people just like to glamorize the story of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's very Hollywood. I also think these series of movies have the best Commissioner Gordon and Lucius Fox. Again, they just feel ripped right out the comic book. They got the look, they got the demeanor. It was great.
This Commissioner Gordon is probably the best Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
And I think of any.
How do you feel about this Alfred?
I think he's pretty good. I think this is a good way to do a realistic Alfred. I didn't even remember the stuff about him like being in the military beforehand. I know that's kind of like, isn't that in some of the comics and in some other versions of Alfred, he's either like a spy or like the Alfred show, he was a spy, right?
Yes,
Isn't that
Pennyworth.
Pennyworth, yes.
I don't like violence.
I like how fatherly he is to Batman, the way he can kind of relate to him with that military background, I guess.
The chemistry between this Alfred and Batman is great. I mean, Christian Bale is a great actor in general, and so is Michael Caine. So all their scenes work well together.
I think this Alfred, what sells him to me is like, it really feels like he cares about Bruce Wayne. Whereas like other Alfreds, like, he does still just feel like Butler sometimes, you know? Like, I don't see Batflick's Alfred, Jeremy Irons' Alfred, being like, Mr. Wayne, you're going too far, crying over him. No, this Alfred is a father to this man.
Now, there's one other pretty major character in the movie. Actually, two. Actually, Two-Face.
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Now, Rachel was actually recast. In the previous movie, she was played by another actress, and now she's played by Maggie Gyllenhaal. I don't think she's written super well. She's more or less just a plot device. She doesn't really have a lot going on her own. But there's a lot going on in this movie. There's a subplot involving China. There's the mob story. There's Gordon. There's Batman. There's Joker. So they do kind of relegate her to just being like love interest.
Yeah.
But I mean, she does have like a big stake in the story.
She has a big stake, but she's a plot device.
Yeah.
That's basically all there is to her. I guess they're trying to go for a classic tough girl with the lawyer thing,
Yeah.
a girl boss sort of vibe, but
Yeah.
she kind of just, you kind of ruined that when she's kissing both men and just doing
Yeah.
whatever she feels in the moment.
There's a huge love triangle in this movie, and I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it ends up being the crux of how the movie ends with her dying and her
Right.
becoming Two-Face and him hating Gordon and
Yada, yada, yada.
yada, yada, yada.
Uh-huh.
This movie also features the Riddler, which you were surprised about. Not a lot of people know this. It's not exactly the Riddler, but it's sort of Nolan's take on the Riddler. There's like sort of this guy named Mr. Reese who works for Bruce Wayne, and he's trying to rebel against him and reveal his identity to the world, and mystery. So it's a very Nolanified version of
Yeah,
things.
it reminds me of his Robin. Let's just throw that in. Little cameo, I
Yeah.
guess.
Braden,
Yes.
is this still the greatest superhero movie of all time?
No,
No?
not to me.
Wow.
I mean, like, not. I like the movie. I love the movie, but I personally, I prefer the Batman. I prefer probably Spider-Verse. I would say that's in the running.
But see, I feel like this movie has some of the greatest writing in a lot of comic book movies. You know, towards the end of the movie, all the stuff with, Two-Face, it really felt like a Alan Moore kind of graphic novel.
The world is cruel, and the only morality in a cruel world is chance.
Are you going into this movie expecting it to be a comic book movie or to be a movie? Because I think that's what it's known for, is that it didn't really feel like a comic book movie. It felt, it felt more like a serious drama.
Right.
It is.
I mean, like we said, The Dark Knight was a pioneer. I wouldn't have any of these movies, Spider-Verse, even The Batman, without The Dark Knight. It was a trailblazer, sort of, in
The
that way.
Citizen Kane of superhero movies?
Yeah, I guess that is a good sort of comparison, where it pioneers a lot of trends and stuff like that. But I like the movies it inspired. Maybe just a little bit more. I think Batman, the character has evolved, and I tend. It's also from just a personal taste thing. I like the more stylized Batman takes. I think Nolan's take is very realistic and very interesting, but very dry.
Yeah. See, it's really hard for me to decide because, I have some nostalgia with this movie. I watched it when I was a kid. This series of movies is what got me to just love movies in general. And, even though I've grown and there's been countless other superhero movies and some garbage, this has always stood out as like a good, solid piece of quality. And I think it has a compelling hero, a compelling story, a compelling villain. But is it the best?
Is it the best?
That's a question. It's at least top 3. See, I was going to come out the gates and say that I think it is the best.
Okay. What beats it for you?
See, it's hard to say because I think that there's just so many different kinds of superhero movies
Right.
that count. Like it feels kind of like a cop-out. But this isn't like Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
This isn't like... It is like the Batman, but even that's like pretty different from this.
Right.
So as far as the best, I will say I think it's one of the best written. It's one of the best directed.
Definitely.
And as far as style goes, I think it may have benefited from leaning into more of the fantastical just a little bit. Like even cinematography-wise, it feels very, like they did, later with like Zack Snyder's stuff, it feels very comic book panel-y.
Right,
There's parts that feel like that here, but generally it's more, drama.
Right. I mean, the movie is cinematically beautiful. There's some great shots of Batman standing on buildings and posing up, but I don't know. There's something about seeing Batman in a world that fits him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like seeing him in the dark. Not Gotham at night, you see Gotham in the day so much in this movie. And it does bring you into that real world. It makes me feel like the Joker's a real character and Batman's a real character, which is great. But it's just personally, I prefer the more comic book movies. You know what I mean?
That's
It's a
understandable.
take,
Before we get into ratings, I wanted to give you a little backstory on what The Dark Knight Rises would have been like if Heath Ledger didn't die. Because Heath Ledger died, I think, right towards the end of production. So they had other plans. So originally what was going to happen was the movie was going to end with Harvey becoming Two-Face. And then the sequel, which probably wasn't even going to be called The Dark Knight Rises, was going to be about Batman versus Two-Face. And Joker...
So no Bane? Bane was like unplanned?
No, Bane was unplanned.
Whoa.
Yeah, so Joker was going to come in probably in more appearances in like the prison that he was going to be sent to. And there's even like rumors that they had plans for that for The Dark Knight Rises to have like a body double be like the back head of the Joker in jail. And there's like storyboards for it.
Really? Okay.
But yeah, that's what it was going to be about. So they actually kind of had to like throw together the ending, which is kind of crazy to me considering why the ending feels like what the whole movie's building up to. It's the most well-written part of the movie, and it's some of my favorite Batman stuff, and it was kind of brought about due to this tragedy.
Right. It sucks.
Braden, what do you give The Dark Knight?
I will give The Dark Knight a 4.5 out of 5.
I feel like that's going to be a hot take.
Really?
I don't know. I mean,
That's a high-ass score.
that is.
I'm saying the movie is near perfect for me. It is just not one of my favorite movies of all time. That's all I'm really saying, you know?
Yeah, I feel like people hold this movie so like near and close to their heart just because it's like, for a lot of people, you know, our friend that watched it with us was saying that like, this is his Batman.
Right.
This isn't my Batman, but this is one of my favorite Batman.
Of course.
I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5, despite some of the flaws that I've listed about the movie. I feel like generally it's a lot of Batmaning. It's engaging. Like even the stuff in China that I felt was just kind of like, why are we in China?
Right.
It's still Batman doing cool Batman stuff.
Of course.
You know? And Joker's as great as he's ever been. I think this is probably just the best Joker performance. I don't know if I'd say it's my favorite Joker, but it's the best Joker performance. And it's just a good movie on its own. And again, I have nostalgia with it. I have like history from like watching it before baseball practice and stuff like that. So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 just because, and also just because of the merit of it and how it changed cinema and superhero movies.
That's fair enough.
All right, Braden. Let's bid the video adieu.
It's better to do.
I am Two-Face. I have two faces. Okay? I'm Harvey Dent, and I'm Two-Face. I'm Two-Face, and I'm Harvey Dent. Okay, you know what? Let's start over.